Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video in Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Lucian mid supplementary guide, and this is going to be kind of an on-hit build of Lucian. Of course, generally the best Lucian build is going to be the Storm Razor one, although the Bloodthirster build is kind of coming back in as well. You can see that the first and the third top Lucian does go for Bloodthirster. We're going to cover that build really soon. So I've been playing a ton of Lucian recently. And we got mid lane, and I'll save the story till the gameplay portion of the video, but basically we went for this build in the mid lane. So let me kind of explain this build and what it really does. So first up, you go for the Gluttonous Grease, which gives you, of course, the early AD and the Omnivamp. Then you go into Manamune, which is one of the most, if not the most, goal efficient items in the game. Of course, it gives you amazing stats. It gives you mainly a lot of mana, but it converts the mana into attack damage. So this actually gives you a ton of AD towards the mid to late stages of the game. But of course, the balance is that it may be a cheap item, it gives you a lot of stats, but of course in the early game it's basically useless, because before you evolve it into mirror mana, it gives you kind of trash stats and you kind of have like half an item. So of course this one gives you it gives you the on-hit damage on your auto attacks and your abilities when you evolve it, which is very useful for Lucian, who does auto attack a lot as well as cast a lot of spells. And then we go into the Bork. Of course, Bork is really good in the current meta against the tanks, which I was facing in this game. So of course you get the percent health damage on hit, and of course you get the drain passive as well, useful against both squishies and tanks. Attack speed, AD, and physical vamp, of course, is all great stats for Lucian. And then we have Black Cleaver, so doubling down on your tank busting capabilities. The Black Cleaver, of course, allows you to shred 6% armor per attack and stacks up to 4 times for 24% armor reduction. Once again, this is very useful against tanks, and it helps your entire team do more physical damage against the enemy team. Aside from that, it also makes you more tanky by giving you health, and of course AD and ability haste and movement speed, all great stats to have as well. And then next you have your true percent armor pen item, which is going to be Serelda's Grudge. Now Serelda's Grudge, since we're not going for crit, Serelda's Grudge in general is the most useful. You get a better stat line, you also get that slow, which helps you land your ulti. However, if you're against a lot of healing, you do still want to go for more reminder for the Grievous Wounds. And for a last item, it is really flexible, but if you're against heavy AP, of course Wit's End is a really good option. Gives you magic resist as well as more attack speed, on-hit magic damage, and healing. But of course, since you still want AD, Maw is a really good option as well. Another kind of on-hit option is Nashor's Tooth, but I don't really advise Nashor's Tooth. I think it's not a very good item for AD champions. You can even go for a last item, Bloodthirster, or GA, Sterex, all of these defensive options. So you could go for what you prefer. So for the runes, of course, press the attack as usual, / empowerment. Lucian procs this very easily. Brutal, because you are auto-attacking quite a bit. Giant Slayer to counter the tanks. And here we actually have attack speed instead of bloodline. And the main reason for that is, of course, in this case, on hit build, you do still auto-attack a lot. And you can actually auto-attack a ton between your spell cast as well. And even when you have all your abilities on cooldown, you can still auto-attack a lot. So Alacrity actually comes in handy here. And lastly, we have Bone Plating, of course, for the defensive capabilities. And for the spells, you have Flash together with whatever you need. So in mid lane, a lot of times it's Exhaust. If you really need Cleanse, or you could go for that. Barrier if your playstyle is as such. Of course, Ignite is also a very strong mid lane option for those 1v1 solo kills, and it's all kind of what kind of playstyle you prefer and things like that. But with all that said, let's move on to our gameplay. Alrighty, so now let's jump into the gameplay itself. And first up, the story I promised from the loadout section of the video. How did I end up playing Lucian mid? Well, basically, I was autofilled to jungle again, and I was like, oh my god, not this again. So of course, first I tried to swap with the ADC, he didn't want to swap. Then I tried to swap with the mid laner, who is the Wukong now. He did actually swap with me. So here I am playing Lucian mid. So you can see in the early game, I'm trading with the Misfortune. She exhausts me, I counter exhaust her. We both have properly pressed the attack on her, but thankfully I dodged both of her Qs, so I actually end up doing about even damage with her. But however, because of her passive, this does lead to a situation where actually she trades even with me. So now I know, like, in a long fight, MF does win against Lucian, which, if you really think about it, that does kind of make sense, because the MF passive is just kind of OP in long fights, right? So regardless, we are back in the laning phase here, and we are against a MF mid lane, which I think is really advantageous for us, because we know the Lucian MF matchup pretty well. I say that as we mess up our level 1 and, basically take an even trade with her. But it's definitely better than playing against a champion I'm not familiar with. So I do have quite a number of things I want to kind of cover, which is of course back to the story. So the jungler kind of swapped with me, and now that they left me in mid lane. And seeing as my team already had a lot of AP in the form of Rumble and a Annie support, haven't seen any support in years by the way, I decided to pick Lucian. So the next question I kind of want to cover is why this Lucian build. But before that, let's take a look at laning phase. Basically, here I've basically dodged every single misfortune Q. I believe I've not gotten hit by a single MFQ. Now I'm dashing on top of her hit. And I'm just basically chasing her down. Now, I could have flashed here, and we could have traded flash for flash, but I kind of chose not to, and I kind of wanted to really cover the early lane of like the Lucian versus MF matchup, because it's really, really intense until like one of us gets a kill, and that person's going to get an advantage, right? So we want to be the one that gets the kill, and the main way we want to do that is, of course, what we're doing here, dashing on top of her hit and basically just bursting her down, knowing our damages very well. And not getting hit by her Q. So here I notice the next wave coming in. This wave is in a horrible position, so I'm actually expending my ult here to shove the wave in and get a bounce off. So expending your ult to clear the wave in the early game for tempo can actually be okay, because Lucian's ult is really not that amazing like in lane. And it's okay, like actually it's kind of okay in lanes, okay at all stages of the game. It's not like an amazing ult, but it's not a horrible ult either. But I think a very good use of it is to shove in the lane for tempo. So you can see here that basically this has allowed me to get back to lane and get a reset without basically losing any minions. You can see that that's the next wave that came in, and I did lose that minion, but it's because I auto attacked at the wrong time. But if I had done so correctly, I would have lost 0 minions. I did still get the XP from it as well as the passive goal. So here, if I break an enemy blue buff, MF unfortunately does have priority, so I'm rotating a little bit late. Fortunately, Wukong already picks up a double, and now MF is kind of caught in a really weird position. I'm just kind of putting some pressure onto her, and the key thing is I pushed her off to the tower here. So this means I now have priority to get back to mid lane, and this means that she's going to either have to recall or she's going to have to walk a long way back to mid. So here you can see that based on the ward on blue buff, she did walk back to mid. Here I get very greedy for a plate here, so I actually use my dash to proc my passive and get the plate and then walk out. Now here MF is just running me down here. I'm realizing that I'm in a bit of trouble. I have to actually flash here. I do exhaust her as well, just to make sure I don't die. So I did have to expend both my flash and my exhaust in order to not die there. So definitely a little bit greedy by me. I mean, using her flash and exhaust for 150 gold, maybe not worth it. I mean, maybe if it was 2 plates like 300 gold, I would say it's worth it, but now we're kind of not very worth it in this case. MF did flash as well though, so here a little bit vulnerable to the Wukong gank. Unfortunately, Wukong doesn't actually have ulti, so because he doesn't have ulti, he's not really going to get a lot done. He does, however, get MF exhaust, and this is very crucial, right? Because MF flashed 1 second before me, and now she's exhausting like 10 plus seconds after me. So this means that my flash and exhaust is going to come back up before hers. And this basically means that there will be a very short window where I can punish her and, you know, kind of go in with my exhaust when she doesn't have hers. And this is kind of these summoner spell advantages is a lot more apparent in solo lanes where it's kind of 1v1. Of course, in bot lane this is really important as well, and I do talk about it a lot in my videos, but in solo lanes I think it's a lot more important. So you can see action never stops, MF tries to rotate, I'm matching her rotation, and I'm basically just trying to attack her. Now Wukong here now this time does have ult, goes in on MF with the ult, and here I'm just launching my ult over the wall, and I'm actually able to pick up the kill. Here comes the bot lane rotation from Amumu and Samira. Amumu goes down to Wukong. Samira charging up her ulti, but is 2 levels down from us, so she's not the biggest threat in the world at the moment. So here now we're back to mid lane, looking to shove in the mid lane again before getting a reset. Now, of course, starting Mana Moon as the first item is going to be pretty weak, so we are basically just going back to get Mana Moon, but Mana Moon is barely even a spike, unfortunately, as the Dragon and the Herald is spawning. So now let's go back to the conversation about why we're going for this build. Right, so this build, you can see, works well against both squishies and tanks, right? So Mana Moon is good against both. Of course, Bork is mainly good against tanks for the on-hit, but of course the Drain passive is a lot of burst damage to squishies as well. That Cleaver is a hardcore tank counter, and basically this is a really great build to deal with tanks, and also decent against squishies. Not amazing, but decent, right? So we'll get back to the topic as we now are going to try to get a weird flank. Now, I don't want to run into 3 enemies myself waiting for Wukong. Wukong goes in here. He goes on to MF. Here the Dyna goes in on me, I pop the exhaust on her, and I'm just ulting people over the wall, trying to chase down MF, but both myself and MF don't really have press the attack anymore, so we can't proc it on each other, and we know that in the long run we will lose against MF because, of course, as I've covered in a long fight, MF does do more damage than Lucian, and also we do have an item spike, but at this point, obviously Mana Mune is kind of useless, so it's barely an item spike, so in this case, yeah. So here, once again, I get a little bit greedy for plates. We know MF is probably either backing or walking back. So here, I'm actually going for a plate. I see Ornn. I don't think he's a very big threat. I get a second plate. However, the mistake here is that Ornn slows me down with the ulti, and Diana is able to come in full burst, and I do kind of get one shot here. So definitely got a bit too greedy for the plates there. But in this case, 2 plates, which is like 300 gold for Diana killing me, it's actually like a... Or actually, Ornn got the kill there, which makes it even more worth it, right? Because if you really think about it, it's a 300 gold for 300 gold trade, because I didn't actually have a shutdown, so I got 300 gold from the tower and then gave 300 gold to Ornn by dying to him. So it's actually an even trade, and I think tower damage is more valuable than a kill. So I guess that's I mean, that's actually debatable, but in this case I think it's fine, especially because Ornn got the goal, so I actually think this is completely alright here. So back to the conversation about why are we building this build instead of our normal build. Like, if this build is so good against tanks, why are we not building it when we're ADC? Well, basically the main message I kind of want to get across is when you're the ADC, like playing in the ADC role, you're the team's main physical damage dealer. So as such, it's kind of your responsibility to build as much AD damage as possible. Whereas if you are playing an AD champion in the mid lane, you're not the primary AD damage dealer, right? So this is the job of Varus. He's not doing a good job of it because he has Runans as a first item in his 0 and 2, but he's technically our main physical damage dealer, whereas I'm like a secondary physical damage dealer. So this allows me to kind of explore itemization options a little bit more, and in this case, because we're against an Ornn and an Amumu, both of whom are building like full tank, by the way, beautiful engage by Annie here, basically just full burst onto the MF, and I just have to ult her down. So because in this case we are actually the secondary damage dealer, so I was thinking we can go for this like classic Lucian mid build where we can basically go for the on-hit kind of variant, and we can kind of deal with the tanks, in particular the Ornn and the Amumu in that way. So you can see here, we're not really doing a lot of damage to Ornn yet because we don't actually have the Blade of the Rune King. Here we're just walking through the tower, we get ulted by him, but it's not very relevant. And here we're just trying to really just take the tower, which is exactly what we're doing here. We get the tower, and we've been rotating pretty well, if I do say so myself, although we unfortunately mostly don't have priority against the MF. Now here I'm really close to item spike, so I'm actually just going for 2 last minions. We do know that Diana and MF are both rotating, so we definitely don't want to stay for the final 2 minions, but these 2 minions will give me enough gold. She goes in onto the Annie, and I'm basically just here to trade the kill back onto the Diana, and she actually baits the Ornn in as well. I actually pick up the kill on Ornn and get a shutdown from him as well. So all in all, really good sequence of events for me. Now I was gonna back, but once again, here we are with a fight. Here I'm just ulting down the Amumu. He flashes away. You can see my ult is not really doing very much damage against him, and he's able to run back to relative safety, but Rumble burns him alive and he goes down, I believe. There we go. He does indeed go down. Now here, on my way out, I can't resist but to get the enemy Gromp. I don't want to show on the wave because if I do that, the enemy team is going to know that I'm here. Although I did just launch my W onto the wave. They probably weren't paying attention, but I steal the Gromp and I am going to recall right now. So here I get the recall, I get the Bork. As well as now I have enough for a Phage, so I'm gonna get that as well. So we grab those, and I was initially thinking of taking the Hex Gate, but instead we decide to just walk mid. So yeah, this build basically is pretty good to deal against tanks. I wouldn't recommend it in the ADC role though, because if you need to deal with tanks in the ADC role, I would recommend either going for a normal, just full crit build, or going for a different kind of build without going for Mana Mune, because Mana Mune takes a little bit too long to scale if you're the primary damage dealer. Nice flash out of the ult of the Dyna ulti, and here I'm just ulting whoever is the closest target. I'm trying to dash onto the Samira, but she does pop W, so I actually focus the Ornn instead, because no point focusing the W Samira. Ornn is really, really tanky. We do not have Bork already, so you can see that we're slowly melting them, and we are able to kill both Ornn as well as Amumu, getting our team a clean ace. So at this point, we finally have the evolution of Mana Mune into Mirror Mana, and you can see that it took like like almost 11 minutes, and this isn't a game where we're fed and we're actually casting a lot of spells because we're fighting a lot. So in another game, like this could take a lot longer than 10 minutes. It could be like a 15-minute kind of situation. So here, once again, enemy's dead, so we're just gonna counter jungle here. We know they're respawning now, which is why I put the ward there to check whether they're coming. I drag this into the bush. I make sure to Q in the far away direction so they don't see my Q. I steal the red buff and I'm trying to get away with it. Looks like I'll be fine. Varus though might not be fine because he doesn't see the enemies coming. He does now and he walks away. Also, the tower at mid is like 28 HP. I don't know why the enemy team is not going for it because there's a bounty. Now, unfortunately, I'm actually defending this tower so they don't get the bounty. And my team gets into a fight. So I'm going to focus Amumu because he's really the only one that's even near me. And now Ornn is the next one near me. So I'm just going for Ornn instead. Ulting down both the wave and him at the same time. And we are able to eventually pick up the kill on him. Now, Diana and Samira are still alive. But you can see I don't quite care about that. I'm just going to counter jungle the enemy when Varus steals my farm. By the way, guys, don't ever start Runaan's Hurricane on any champion, even Twitch. Runaan's Hurricane is useless as a first item because you're going to do no damage. Because Runaan's is... It is basically an incredibly gold inefficient item because the main thing Runaan's gives you is the ability to attack 3 people at the same time, right? Which, if you really think about it, that's completely OP, right? Like, attacking 3 people at the same time is nuts, right? So to balance that, you are getting a lot worse stats. And if you go first item Runaan's, even on Twitch where you want to spread your poison, it's horrible. Never ever go Runaan's first item on any champion. So, yeah, in this case, Varus went for Runaan's into Terminus. He should go for Terminus into Runaan's. Anyways, speaking of items, I pick up my Black Cleaver. And of course, now with both Black Cleaver as well as Borg, we're going to be... I wouldn't say melting Amumu and Ornn because they are still tanky, but we're going to be at least be able to deal meaningful damage to them, which we wouldn't if we are going for just a normal build. So here, Wukong's kind of getting into a little bit of fight, but it's against both of the tanks, right? I do have itemization to kill tanks, but I don't really just want to dash in on tanks, right? That's never really a good feeling to dash in on a tank. You want to be dashing in on, like, you know, a squishy or something more along those lines instead of dashing in on a tank. So here, just one-shotting those Krugs since they kind of walked toward me. And now we're gonna use the Baron that we just got to kind of push in top lane. Now my team is getting engaged on by the enemy team, so I'm just looking to basically go for valuable targets. I'm going for Diana here. I flash forward, I ult her down, and actually get the kill on her. I'm not sure why she's not trying to sidestep my ult, but now I have a beautiful flank. I'm gonna flank onto MF, dashing over the wall. She has nowhere to go. Down she goes, and who was that? The Ornn as well, I believe, just walked straight into us because he has nowhere else to go. And at this point, the game's basically won, right? We have Baron minions just running straight into the enemy base in the mid lane, and only Amumu's left alive. He can't possibly defend against my entire team, except Wukong, of course, who's dead. And here you can see, we even get the kill on Amumu before we end the game, and then we end the game. And yeah, just a pretty beautiful game all in all. So I'm going to leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.